Springfield's Talk 1041 and a good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. I think day one of the Democratic National Convention really sums up where the Democrat Party is today. You had anti-Semitic protesters breaking down a barrier, a number of them arrested. Joe Biden declaring that some of those who want the death of Jews, those who are protesting, finish what Hitler started, quote, have a point. That was his what's being declared as off script last night. I love it in the same context, the same speech. He once again repeated what even his media outlets have declared to be a lie, that Donald Trump said that neo-Nazis were very fine people. I mean, everyone knows that, well, I should not say, I think there are a lot of Democrat voters who do not know that is not true, that has been proven to be a lie. This is why, if you haven't noticed, there's no audio that gets played over and over again. Because the very fine people comment had nothing to do with Nazis. And they know that. But then in the same speech, he says that the people who want the Jews eliminated off the planet have a point. Joe Biden said that. The DNC made sure that the colored people of color were separate from the white folk, separating out the black people, separating out the Hispanic people so that the whites could be separate and on their own. It's called segregation, something that the Democrat Party championed and fought very hard for a very long time. They eventually lost that fight, but bringing it back. I mean, you want to talk about Jim Crow 2.0, the DNC, blacks over there. The releasing of the platform was done so hurriedly and sloppily and lazily that what apparently was just a cut and paste job, they missed references to Joe Biden being the nominee on over a dozen different occasions. I think dozens and dozens of times Biden was referenced as the nominee in there. And this is because Kamala doesn't even really have a platform. The Democrats have, their platform is, we just have to win. We just want power. We don't have a vision. We don't really have a specific plan. I mean, we're going to jack up prices on everything. We're going to do that. We're going to increase inflation. This is something that they plan on doing. And these are details that we've talked about and we'll talk about more. Even allies of the Democrats themselves noting that her economic policies that were unveiled last week are not good. It is going to lead to things being much more expensive for Americans. This is why they try to keep these things secret from the American people. This is why there is no platform that's put forth other than a very sloppy and hastily cut and paste of Biden's platform, the DNC's platform, the Democrats with Biden as the nominee, and that's why they missed his name numerous times throughout it. I mean, it is just a brilliant presentation of where we are today with the Democrat Party in this country. And they continue. There's a Federalist piece. They have successfully, at least at this point, kicked the black man off the ballot in Michigan. That would be Cornel West. The Democrats are defending democracy by doing everything they can to kick people off the ballot that they believe can cause them harm. And taking a page from the Crystal Quaid book of how to win elections, kicking the black man off the ballot is one of their avenues that they travel down in order to try and secure their win. And Cornel West, he's facing it in a number of different states, Michigan being the latest one. I mean, this is the Democrat Party today. Kick black people off the ballot, segregate black people at the Democratic National Convention. It's 2024. What do they think it is, 1940-something? I mean, that's out there. You talk about nostalgia. It is a blast from the past. Watching how the Democrats operate today, it is your great grandpa's Democrat Party. That is for sure. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Cullerton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll have sunny skies with a high near 81. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 61. On Wednesday, sunny with a high near 82. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 83.
Peter Pan, Juanita K, going to be the Broadway's best. You can register to win tickets for this. The event itself, September 9th through 11th. Of course, you can purchase tickets as well, but who wouldn't want to try and win some free ones? And you can do that at KSGF.com. In addition to your next brand new RV from Wilder RV, they also offer full spectrum of repairs, everything from HVAC, plumbing, electrical. If you have any sort of water damage, that, of course, can just be such a hassle. Water does so much damage to your home, to your recreational vehicle. Appliance work, a lot of the things that you may not traditionally think of as an RV dealer taking care of. They also have free on-site sewer dump. They offer propane bottle fill, huge selection of parts, from hard parts like slide-out motors and appliance parts to accessories like screen door protectors and those other little things that oftentimes may seem more incidental. So whatever it is, they've got you covered. And if you haven't had that maintenance done, that routine maintenance, Wilder RV, head on over. If you're in the Springfield area, you're going to head up 13, just about 85 miles to Clinton, Missouri, and to make sure that your RV is road ready, is camping ready, is sit in the driveway and hang out in it ready, however you use it. WilderRV.com, also KSGF.com, under Nick's endorsements. Yesterday, Phil Donahue passed away the age of 88. Depending on your age, would range from having remembered and perhaps watching Phil Donahue to not knowing who he is whatsoever. Phil Donahue, my era of growing up, I remember him being on television, but I was way too young to have any interest in watching a show of that particular format. And it was on, if I remember, during the day, and he would have different guests on. He was a liberal, very liberal guy. I have for some time felt that it is unfortunate that the Democrats no longer operate in a fashion that they did when the Phil Donahues were relevant within their party. Phil Donahue, people, again, depending on your age, I'd say if you're under 30, you don't know a world in which people on the left could sit down and have meaningful conversations, in which they really genuinely wanted to know what you thought, how you felt. The way that we in this society operate today, any discussion that one has with somebody on the left, when they disagree with you, they call you racist. They call you homophobe. They just lob these sort of insults at you. They make hysterical claims. I mean, listen to the attacks on Trump. It certainly isn't his, quote, failed policies, because really he didn't have any. I mean, it's not look at the economy under Trump, look at the border under Trump. It is Trump is Hitler, making up false claims. Trump said Nazis were very fine people, and these sorts of things. And that's not how it has always been. I've argued it's one of the reasons that a lot of people were drawn towards RFK Jr. and a lot of Republicans, not to support him as a candidate, but it was just so refreshing that here is a guy who is a lefty that will sit down and have conversations. He does not default to name calling because he cannot back up his arguments. You have the Elon Musks out there. You have the Joe Rogans out there. You've got even the Bill Maher's out there. These are not conservative individuals. These are liberal folks that range on the liberal spectrum. But they sit down and they have conversations. Now, Bill Maher, he name calls a little bit. But at the same time, he listens, he points, he counterpoints. He has conversations. This is why Joe Rogan is so popular, because he engages. He offers different perspectives. He listens to different perspectives. He's intellectually curious. Phil Donahue is the same way. I'm going to play a bit of audio just to demonstrate what we're missing in our culture today with the media. And Phil Donahue was not, as a talk show host on television, operating as a journalist. But he was operating in a manner that the left has denied us over the past few generations, and that is intellectual curiosity. And it's just a couple of minutes. And most of this conversation, it's with economist Milton Friedman. Most of the conversation, 90% of it, is Milton Friedman. But to some degree, this is my point. And Phil Donahue, socialist guy, Milton Friedman, not. And Phil Donahue is asking, he asked a few probing questions, but what you'll witness here is somebody on the left that's asking questions, and visually, you miss something by not seeing it visually, but I'll tell you, you can see in Donahue's face, he's intent on understanding. And he doesn't name call. He doesn't accuse him of hating the poor. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't get mad. which is why you got meaningful conversations like this.
When you see around the globe the maldistribution of
Donahue.
wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the concentration of power within, did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
And what does reward virtue? You think the communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue? Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us. Well, I don't even trust you to do that.
Well, let alone myself. One of the nice things about having your own show is when you're able to say at any time, we'll be back in just a moment.
I can't help but wonder what Phil Donahue over the past couple of generations have thought about the left and the complete lack in our society of the intellectual curiosity and conversations that he would have on his program. Now, they weren't all political in nature by any stretch, and he wasn't somebody that got converted over to the truth when it comes to liberties and freedoms. But again, he was someone that in that era of time, and he wasn't alone, there were many individuals on the left, Democrats, that were willing to ask questions out of intellectual curiosity to try and figure out, to try and enlighten themselves, as we all should with those intellectual conversations, to ask the probing questions and then to ask follow-up questions. You notice that was something that's very telling, that instead of just moving on to a different subject matter, and you see that all the time with these interviewers on the major networks, they'll ask a question and then the answer is one that really does require a follow-up. It will be a successful retort, but they just move on to something else because the answer isn't what was relevant to them. The answer is to nail that conservative. The answer is to make that Trump supporter look bad. The answer is to get Kamala Harris elected. And if your answer does not allow me to do that, I'm just going to move on to the next one. That's not how the Phil Donahues of the world operated. And it's just, it is one of the reasons that the concept of free speech was recognized as so important by the founders because it led to a greater understanding of things and a culture and a society that was willing to listen to other ideas, whether they were hateful or absurd, and then counter offer, well, here's my thoughts on that. And that is how you advance as a society. That's how you advance politically. That's how you advance socially. That's how you advance when it comes to the sciences, which is the opposite of the way that we operate, at least with the left in charge today. Not just politics, but look at how the whole COVID situation was dealt with. Don't question it. Don't offer up any thoughts, any ideas. Here is the authority. His name is Fauci, or his name or her name is this. They have a lab coat. They're the ones holding the press conference. You listen to what they say. Don't question it. If you do, you're a science denier. Shut up and sit down. And it's just when you watch somebody like a left-wing individual in Phil Donahue and how he operated, and again, he wasn't the only one, but he died yesterday, so I'm using him as an example, and that we don't have that in our society any longer on the left. Other than the few people, perhaps a Joe Rogan, but look how they get treated by the left. They get accused of being right-wingers when they're not even right-wingers. They're just intellectually curious individuals, and the left is hostile towards that form of coexistence, that form of betterment, the willingness to listen to one another, to ask questions, and to advance from that. And it's sad, and we all suffer for that. If you ever, I mean, I think he had Milton Friedman on a number of occasions, and that was a 2.5-minute clip out of a 54-minute or 45. I mean, it was an entire show of talking about different aspects of the economy. It's very, very interesting, and I think many of you will like it because, again, it is an actual conversation that we don't hear so much of anymore. Also, Ayn Rand. Fascinating conversations. Phil Donahue, you can see this stuff on YouTube. Phil Donahue and Ayn Rand, and his real probing and really genuinely trying to understand her philosophical approach to things. It's just very, very interesting. At least it is to me, and I think many of you will enjoy it as well. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. The best episode of Donahue I remember is when he had Sweet Sweet Connie, the rock groupie from Grand Funks, were an all-American band. She was a substitute teacher in Little Rock who slept with every rock star. Now, like I said, Donahue was on air when I was too young to watch that sort of stuff. I remember it. There weren't a lot of channels, or at least for us, we weren't one of those early cable families. We had just the generic regular networks for most of my childhood, or at least half of it, I'd say, it seems like. And so, I would see it on. But I do remember, it wasn't, I played a clip with Milton Friedman and talked about his conversations with Ayn Rand. And certainly not all of the subject matter was that weighty or significant. There was more of the pop culture stuff. And for that era, perhaps even controversially trashy. But I do, back to the original point, our country was better off with people like Phil Donahue as someone who was a liberal Democrat, but someone who would talk, because I don't think as a country we're better off having one party rule. This is clearly a departure from the Democrats' position on things. But I also believe that if you have you've got two parties or three parties or more parties, or as a country, you're much better off when you have in a party like the Democrats somebody like Phil Donahue who would talk and engage. And the country really was better for that because of him, because every day in millions of homes, people heard these things. They learned a lot. There were countless people who learned about the truth when it comes to freedom and liberties in the economy, because he would not only have Milton Friedman on, but he didn't have Milton Friedman on in order to prove that he was wrong, in order to say that he hated poor people, in order to nail him. He had him on because he felt it would be beneficial and interesting for his audience across the country to listen to what it is that somebody like Milton Friedman, who differed in approach and opinion regarding freedom and economy and capitalism versus socialism than he did as a host. And he felt that could be beneficial. And you think about the countless people who would watch those exchanges and hear that information. And it doesn't mean that they all would suddenly awaken to the truth. But when that format is there, when those intellectual curiosities are put forth, then you expose people to it. And that speech, that back and forth, is how we become a more advanced society. And again, it's something that the Democrat Party in particular has no use for whatsoever. It is complete, total compliance. And if you disagree, you're racist, you're privileged, you're an oppressor, you're a homophobe, you are any listing of horrific categories of people that they will try and use to shut you down. We got a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed.
Fields Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll have sunny skies with a high near 81. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 61. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 82. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 83.
Coming up 10 o'clock on Friday, Local for Less Ozarks at KSGF.com, Big Whiskeys. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Big Whiskeys, and you will be able to buy $50 gift certificates for only $25. That will be 10 a.m. on Friday, KSGF.com. I referenced yesterday a piece I wanted to share with you, and I'm going to do that now. And it is written by a guy named Christian Caruso, and he is from Venezuela, and he's a writer. This piece was published not long after I had referenced the fact that when Biden and the Democrats were running against Trump last time, there was a significant number of people from Venezuela specifically trying to warn Americans through blog posts, through videos, do not go this direction. We have been here, and we were warned. I thought the most interesting thing about their warning at the time was the fact that they were saying, we've been where you are. We used to be the place in South America. We were it. Like, we were the shining example of what can be, of what a successful, wealthy nation with a high quality of life for the average citizen can be. And then we had the siren song of socialism come along, and many people who lived amongst us in Venezuela who had left Cuba were warning us, don't do this, and we did not listen. Because Cuba had been through it. The Cubans had been through it, and then they warned us, and we did not listen, and now we're warning you. So this is a new piece, and it is in reference to Kamala Harris's price control plans for the economy. And he writes, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is reportedly planning to introduce, as she did, a price control scheme for food and groceries in America should she be elected. An alarming proposal to hear as a Venezuelan who experienced the rampant shortages and economic chaos of price controls in the flesh. I lived through the majority of the past 25 years of the disaster known as Venezuela's socialist revolution, having only been able to flee from Venezuela a couple of months ago. Throughout the past 20 years or so, late socialist dictator Hugo Chavez and then his successor, Nicolas Maduro, signed off on several iterations of price controls in the same style as Harris's reported policies, each one more disastrous than the last. The prospect of buying things cheaper due to price control may seem enticing. Who wouldn't love to save a couple of dollars here and there, especially under Bidenflation, which every single one of my American friends has been slammed by? But roughly 2 decades of price controls in Venezuela ultimately gave forth to severe shortages, rationing, corruption, and just unpleasant experiences and misery all around. It got so bad that the Maduro regime, while still officially implementing price controls, has quietly stopped enforcing them for the most part. They've not publicly said why, but maybe they finally realized just how disastrous it is. Venezuela price control disaster is a 2-decade-old tale that began in early 2003. At that time, Hugo Chavez established severe price controls and imposed strict profit margins on meat, chicken, cheese, sugar, coffee, bean, milk, and other items. See, he took the same approach that Democrats are taking now, that it was the evil corporations making those profits. So, Kamala's plan is like Hugo Chavez's plan, to limit profits. I remember that for a time the plan seemed to function, but this only lasted for so long, and by the late 2000s, shortages of the regulated items were commonplace. The price controls, together with inflation, led to situations where a kilogram of onions was more expensive than a kilogram of meat. It's very simple, really. Who would want to produce and sell items at a loss? And if you do, how long can you sustain that? Not for long. By 2011, Chavez doubled down on price controls, because this is what the left always does with things that don't work. In addition to what was already subject to price regulations, Chavez added water, fruit juice, soap, bleach, dishwater soap or dishwasher soap, detergent, toiletries like shampoo soap and deodorant, toilet paper, and even diapers to the list. The new price control scheme sought to punish capitalist traders and those who speculated against people by further imposing disciplinary actions should they disrespect the profit margins established by the socialist regime. Chavez said that the regulatory scheme was a new mechanism for the transition to socialism and a socialist economy that puts an end to the vices of capitalism. Hugo Chavez died in 2013, but unfortunately the price controls did not die with him. If Chavez had doubled down on price controls before dying, Maduro tripled down on what he inherited. The rest is a tale you may already know: severe ID-based rationing of the regulated items and the implementation of fingerprint scanners to further clamp down on regulations, and just sheer socialist absurdity. To give you an example of how bad it all got with price regulations, in 2015, Maduro regime officials came up with a convoluted math formula to set a regulated price for eggs. The price was unrealistic and unsustainable by all measures, to the point that I vividly remember my mother telling me not to throw away the cardboard packaging that the eggs came in, because without it, a nearby market would not sell us eggs. The eggs were so overregulated that they ended up costing far less than the 2 pieces of cardboard. The price regulations of toiletries led to personal situations where I had to get some of them through an off-market dealer. These exchanges, often taking place at a street corner near my old apartment, felt like I was doing something shady, some shady illegal stuff like purchasing drugs, but no, there I was buying bar soap to wash my hands and to shower, a luxury for when there was actually running water, but that's a whole other tale. In late 2018, I went to this store near my house that sold toiletries, perfumes, and other goods in search of soap and shampoo. During those days, the National Guard had staged an intervention on the store, and they were only letting people purchase one item, regardless of what it was. After a long line, I ended up only being able to purchase something that was not exactly shampoo, but it would have to do for both me and my brother to wash our hair with. The price regulations also hit medicine, leading to severe shortages of even the most basic pills, as no one could realistically manufacture them at a loss forever. This led to inhumane situations where I could not even find omeprazole for my mom's stomach woes or antacids during the times when she was receiving chemotherapy for her liver cancer. An incomplete treatment, by the way, as the Maduro regime, which controlled medicine imports, had long caused a health crisis through socialist mismanagement and stopped importing certain treatments. Maduro's policies condemned thousands, including my mother, to death to a lack of the complete required life-saving treatments. This continues to this day. Ah, yes, the single-payer system. Antacids were also hard to find after the Maduro regime banned them, alongside other items to prevent protesters from using them. As I could not find antacids, all I could do was give her water with baking soda. The ID and fingerprint-based rationing of items also created an informal bartering system. For example, I was entitled to purchase a certain amount of diapers or baby food per week. I had no need to purchase either of them because there were no babies in my family, but there were parents who needed them. What was common practice during those days was that I'd spend my weekly diaper allotment for someone else, who would in turn buy something I needed from his or her weekly allotments. Then, once we were out of the eyes of the National Guard or police, we'd trade the items and settle monetary differences. What was the socialist regime's solution to this? Demanding that parents show their baby's birth certificate to be eligible to even purchase diapers. If you are a company, would you produce toilet paper at a loss? What was the Maduro regime's response? Forcefully occupy your factory to make you produce toilet paper at gunpoint, leaving you with the losses. Certain food companies that produced regulated items like rice or Venezuela's flagship corn flour were able to offset some of the losses by also producing variants of other products that were not subject to regulations, such as a specialized corn flour mixture to make a sort of corn pancake. The Maduro regime responded to this practice by banning the production of said items. As I mentioned, these regulations, while still active, are not being enforced as the Maduro regime has other pressing matters to worry about, such as negotiations with the Biden administration or stealing sham elections. This means that toilet paper, eggs, and other once hard-to-find items can now be more easily found on shelves, but for capitalist U.S. dollars instead of socialist bolivars, however it's pronounced. If you need another example of the consequences of price control, look to Cuba's Castro regime, which announced new price controls in July as part of its wartime economy proclamation that seeks to save socialism in Cuba, a nation ruined by 6 decades of price communism. Argentina, under the socialist government of alleged wife-beater Alberto Fernandez, also insisted on price controls through Fernandez's disastrous presidency, claiming that they would help fight off inflation, which they didn't. President Javier Milei eliminated price controls in January, among other policies eliminating socialist economic micromanaging, and inflation in Argentina has dramatically reduced every month as a result. And they're actually, in the country of Argentina, with the reversal of socialism, seeing the elimination of deficits. They are now having more revenue coming in than expenditures going out. I mentioned yesterday, well, I've got to take a break, and I want to make a few comments on this piece, and we'll get it posted at ksgf.com under must-read headlines. It's a Breitbart piece from a Venezuelan writer, and this message is a message that so many people in Venezuela for years have been trying to warn Americans about. Now, of course, the media does not give these people a voice. They will not give these people a voice because they do not want the American people to understand the direction that we're headed. They do not want the American people to know what the proposed policies of Kamala Harris have done in other countries. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. The piece I shared in the last segment will get posted at ksgf.com, must-read headlines, but it was written by a writer in Venezuela who, like so many others, have been trying to warn the United States about the policies of then the Biden administration and now specifically the price controls that Kamala Harris would say she would implement. These are things that, have been, tried in the Soviet Union, tried in Cuba, talking about the real life implications of this stuff, how it has destroyed in just a generation or two Venezuela, destroyed it. Did the same thing to Argentina, but then the new president comes along who is in the libertarian category, and things have already begun improving drastically and dramatically in ways that the opposition said could never occur. I referenced yesterday Clarence Thomas noting that the problem with socialism is that these people who get in charge, they come up with these ideas based off, they just think, well, it's such an arrogant, narcissistic thing to believe. I can do what no one else has ever done, and I can, from the very top, start just setting prices and telling people what they can and can't buy, and it's going to make everything wonderful. And what Clarence Thomas pointed out is that while you have these people that get in power and they decide to try these little experiments, people suffer. The author of this piece talked about how, because of socialized medicine, his mother suffered greatly, as did countless other people that would physically suffer, that would die prematurely because of a single-payer system, socialized medicine. But it's free. Oh, it's free. When you can get it. This is the dark nature of socialism, communism, fascism, which are different management styles of managing people and economies. Ultimately, the thread that passes through all of them is the fact that it is not freedom and liberty. It's people in charge making the decisions. But again, you've got a management style difference. Fascism, for example, you can own your own business, but government's going to tell you how to do it. And frankly, that's more of what has happened in Venezuela more than socialism, though socialism is a component to it. And fascism is a more accurate description of Kamala Harris and price controls. That is, economically speaking, fascism is, oh yes, private industry can exist, but we will tell you as government officials how it is that you're going to run it. We will tell you what you can charge. We will dictate what price margins or profit margins you can have. That's fascism. And watching the people who love to scream and yell that Trump is a fascist applaud actual fascism as it's proposed by Kamala Harris is not an encouraging sign, because it demonstrates that there is a significant segment of the population that is, some of which are completely ignorant, and they really genuinely have no idea what they're talking about because they are applauding the very thing that they curse, or they are knowingly dishonest and for whatever sick, dark reasons, want a society in which a few people get to pick winners and losers, a few people get to create a society in which you have no middle class, you have people that are violating the law just to buy antacids or diapers for their own kids under the watchful eye of military personnel, and you still have rich people. Oh, yes. Rich people do not go away. It's just you have to be corrupt. And the number of people who are rich are far fewer than in a capitalist society. Again, there is no middle class. And if you're lower class, you have no chance whatsoever of working your way up. This is the system that Tim Walsh says is neighborly. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. We're also learning from former students of his that he oftentimes talked glowingly to students about communism, how wonderful it was because everyone was equal. No one had to worry about paying for anything. Sure would have been instructive to have taken a field trip to some of these locations across the world in which socialism is currently at play. But the left always says, well, they just didn't do it right. I will be the one person. I will be the one human in the existence of time that manages to figure out how to do it correctly. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs. Financing is available in these difficult times of Bidenomics and inflation. Everything from car insurance, filling up your car, routine maintenance for you, everything costs more. And sometimes you have to get that vehicle fixed to get to work, to make the money to get the vehicle fixed. It's this vicious cycle. Financing is available. A1 Custom Car Care can talk with you about that. And a few weeks ago, talking with Dustin, and he said they've noticed this trend that really bothers them, and that is people, because you're trying desperately to pay for these fixes. Oftentimes you'll get a cheap part. You'll order one on the internet, and then it can do more damage to your vehicle, which ends up costing you more. That's the irony of it. Trying to save money, you cost yourself more money. He relayed one story in particular in which that happened. Somebody bought a piece on the internet, and it caused a great deal of damage because it just wasn't a quality part. And yeah, you're going to be able to find cheaper parts other places. But one of the benefits of having the quality parts that they seek out at A1 Custom Car Care is that most work you get a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on. And so if something does go wrong with it 2 years down the road, 18,000 miles later, then you're going to be covered in that. Of course, they can explain all of that to you. But instead of trying to go the cheap route and potentially causing yourself more heartache and more money, talk to them about the financing options. Then at least you know what is available to you. That's A1 Custom Car Care. The DNC caucuses segregated by race. The Democrats are the party of slavery. They are the party of segregation. It should come as no surprise. And they celebrate these things. The party that points the finger at Republicans, saying Jim Crow 2.0, as we speak today, promotes segregation. The sort of thing that actually did happen during the Jim Crow era. DNC kicking off yesterday. Multiple posts shared on X showed official DNC signs pointing for black people to go that way in that room. Hispanic people, you're over there. We white people will stay over here. You go over there. But it's for their own good, see. This is how they rationalize it. This is how they rationalized it in the 50s. This is how they rationalized slavery. It isn't just for them, see. It's for the good of the people of color as well. Now, that may seem absurd, but it's no different than what they're arguing today when they push segregation at their own convention. Well, see, their interests are different. We really shouldn't commingle. This is they use some of the same arguments that were used against interracial marriage. Well, there's just a benefit to everyone keeping with their own. So the Congressional Black Caucus, it's for them, see? It's just as good for them as it is for those white people, those of us who want to stick with our own. The pro-slavery Democrats argued that because of the fact that black people were not as intelligent, did not have the same capabilities as white people, it would be cruel to free them. They would not be able to survive on their own. They would not be able to function. They wouldn't know how to go out and live a successful life. Much like today, they say, black people don't know how to get a photo ID. They need to be taken care of. Segregation. Their arguments for segregation then are their same arguments for segregation now. And it's just for everyone's good. It's just best for everyone. We mistakenly believe, because the way that segregation is portrayed from back then in media, in the arts, is that it's always these very profoundly, overtly racist people that, I'm a segregationist because I hate black people. But that wasn't the overall rationalization for the majority of people who were at least okay with it. It was just better for people to be with their own kind. They didn't say, oh, because I'm racist and I hate black people. Well, it was just better for them as well. They want to be on their own as well. They want to be with their own people as well. This is the same argument they use today. You cannot take you think about how absurd the notion is that they will stand up and they will curse the evils of segregation while doing it. As if somehow the Democrats actively segregating people on race today is virtuous, but magically it wasn't generations ago. It's different now. It's virtuous now because we're doing it. Guess what? Democrats back then thought it was virtuous too. And a lot of good people, a lot of very fine people, thought that it was the right thing to do back then, just like you do today. See, those of you who think that there is virtue in separate, whether it's DEI or CRT or, having these, different events or different graduations, for people of color and then the white people over here, and see, you think you're doing something right. You're different than the segregationists back then. No, you're not. Now, again, of course, there were some people who were segregationists back then because they were racist and hated black people, and there are today as well. But there were also segregationists who just felt it was best for everyone. That not only did white people benefit from it, but people of color benefited from it. And that's what most pro-segregationists tell themselves today. Oh, they want it. They want it. Oh, okay. It's 2024, and segregation is just as prevalent today as it has been in the past because of the Democrat Party. Weather coming up here in a moment. Also, the latest traffic update. Right now, news.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it'll be sunny with a high near 81. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 61. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 82. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 83.
Coming up Friday, 10 a.m., KSGF.com, local for less Ozarks, big whiskeys. You will be able to purchase a $50 gift certificate for only $25. That, again, Friday, 10 a.m. at KSGF.com. the existence of Joe Biden creates such mixed emotions because on one hand, you see him up there and he's screaming, he's yelling, he is continuing to tell lies, and dangerous lies, by the way. This continued lie that Trump said that Nazis were very fine people. And he really elaborated on it, I think it was during that debate in which he claimed that like out of the forest came a bunch of Nazis. Remember that?
Yeah,
It was
no, it
like
was the
very
debate.
descriptive. Like none of this was, there's no footage of any of this, of course. The way that, of course, everyone has cell phones, everyone records everything all the time. But somehow this imagery that was painted by Joe Biden during the debate, that out of the forest emerged these torch-carrying Nazis, and that Donald Trump's like, look at these very fine people.
It gets more elaborate every time.
I know. It does. Like every telling of it, it almost makes one wish that Biden would be around for another couple years just to hear where it would go at that point. You know, what would he possibly claim in furthering this lie? And there's no media outlet that hasn't declared that this is not true. He's not telling the truth. His media outlets, all the major, everyone knows this isn't true in terms of media. Now, I think Americans, many of you understand that Democrats are pretty uninformed, but I think that it would be shocking to the average informed person how many people don't know some of the most basic stuff. Even that there are a lot of people who believe that. They watch MSNBC or NBC. They don't see the fact checks. The fact checks are done very quietly. They're done very subtly so that they can say, well, no, we said it wasn't true. But they certainly don't pull Biden off air for saying it. Let's not forget, some of these networks refused to air some of Trump's speeches because they had a responsibility to not spread disinformation. They have no problem whatsoever putting Joe Biden on television and letting him over and over and over again spread disinformation. But this is dangerous disinformation at that. This is a sort of information that could very well lead us to see a repeat of what we have seen with numerous Democrat activists, and that is they believe the lies and they try to kill Republicans because of it. Whether it's the Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer who believed that Republicans were going to kill old people in the environment, and so he tried to take out as many as he could at the softball field, or the left-wing activists that set out to kill as many Supreme Court justices as possible after you had Chuck Schumer on the steps of the Supreme Court warning that, specifically Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, that if you touch Roe v. Wade, you're gonna open it all up. You will not know what hit you. I mean, these are just two examples. After Kamala Harris repeatedly referred to ICE agents as the Klan, there was a number of attacks on ICE facilities by left-wing activists. So in this atmosphere, and then, of course, let's not forget the assassination attempt on Trump, which amazingly, we've been unable to find out any motivation for that whatsoever. I mean, is that just remarkable? Then to go on national television and once again falsely. It would be one thing if it were true. If it were true, it would be true. Okay, go right ahead. But to repeat it, and then to have a sea of people cheer the lie? Well, that's just beyond the pale. That's beyond any decency. There is no decency there. So when I see that dark, and it is evil, whether it is deliberate evil on Biden's behalf or maybe it is evil using him as a conduit because he doesn't have the mental capacity to formulate any of this on his own, but it's evil. That is evil. So that part of Biden I see, and I do not feel any sympathy for whatsoever. But then at the same time, I'm like, he's a crazy old man. And just the way that they treat the guy. Do you know that they bumped, like they drugged this out so he wasn't even able to get up and speak until 11:30 Eastern time.
Jeez.
So Central time, 10:30.
It was way past his bedtime.
Well, not just his, but clearly they were doing it past when people would quit watching.
Right.
Because they so they, and the conflict between this is the party that shoved him out and then pretending as if they have this great admiration for him. The very people who orchestrated his political murder, the overthrowing of his presidency in the context of a second term, the overthrowing of his winning election in all 50 states, who, according to all reports, went to him and got to the point that they threatened to have Kamala use the 25th Amendment against him, which would officially be an acknowledgement that he was totally senile, until he finally broke. They dried up all of the money. So and all of this a complete and utter humiliation for him. And then they bring him out and they all pretend like, oh, you're just the most wonderful thing ever. It's such a weird mind job. And all of these people are participating in it. It's like some sort of weird psychedelic dystopian movie in which you don't know what's real, what's not real. You have all of these people on one hand. They are just doing, the knives are out. They do everything they can to politically just murder this guy. And then if you don't know any better, you'd think that they had the greatest admiration for him in the world. They talk like, oh, he's such a wonderful patriot for stepping down. You shoved him down the stairs. And then you jumped on top of him over and over again until he screamed uncle. The Democrat Party today, I suppose this is what it is like living in Venezuela or any of these third world countries, these countries that are led by these tyrannical political parties where nothing is attached to reality. They just do what they want. They create whatever narrative they want, and don't you dare ask a question about it. You just follow along. Overturn elections. Just pick somebody like, oh, here's who you're going to support now. And I mean, they all just line up to do it. Applaud all along. It's unsettling. It is everything this country is not supposed to be about. I think, of course, Hillary Clinton spoke. Just trash. I mean, she's trash. I think perhaps the greatest takeaway from how dark and dishonest and immoral these people are is that while lying about Trump, falsely claiming that he said anti-Semites were very fine people, in the same speech, Joe Biden claimed that the people protesting outside for the elimination of Jews have a point. Well, they got a point, Even in the context of the media, as desperate as they are to get Kamala Harris elected president, as they run her campaign for her, how do you on one hand allow the portrayal of Trump claiming that anti-Semites are very fine people when he never said that, but here you've got on the national stage Joe Biden, which apparently this was off script, saying about actual anti-Semites who openly say, yes, we want the Jews dead, saying they have a point. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. All right, we're going to jump over to traffic. Got weather in moments. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. There is an interesting tidbit regarding journalists, and evidently they're fuming at the way that they're being treated by the Democrats at the DNC, which is, I suppose this is an internal family matter.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll have sunny skies with a high near 81. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 61. For Wednesday, sunny with a high near 82. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 83.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Home buying, home selling needs, whatever they may be, everything in between, and just advice before you put your house on the market. You're thinking, oh, I need to, even before I have a realtor come, before I have Emily come, I know she knows what she's doing, and I've got to update this cabinetry. I've got to, fix this over here, and I don't even want her to see our house until I fix these things. Don't do anything until she sees the house first. Okay, because some of those things you may not need to do. They may not help you sell the home. Some upgrades are matter of personal preference, and so it isn't even the sort of thing that is necessarily going to make a difference between somebody buying your home, because odds are they may want to change it anyhow, personalize it to their own taste. But this is her area of expertise, and it's why you should not spend dollar one, effort one, until you first have her come look at your home and then advise you on what you need to do. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Question on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Nick, have you heard of any protests from the native Chicagoland people against the Democratic Convention? They were really PO'd about the illegal immigration situation. I haven't heard anything out of them. I have not. It has been mostly the anti-Semitic wing of the Democrat Party that has been protesting. That was the situation yesterday in which there was a standoff between law enforcement. They broke down a barrier. I don't know if it's going to get much worse than that. The organic hatred of that component of the Democrat Party is there, and I think that they will continue to protest. What they benefited from after October 7th was a lot of big Democrat money that helped make it bigger, helped organize it. And those big-time donors that helped fund the organic anti-Semitism are believed to have backed off because Kamala Harris, they believe, is certainly going to deliver when it comes to their anti-Semitic positions and desires, their anti-Israel positions. And so that they're not going to be financially assisting the activist, which in any sort of meaningful way or result, what we could see is, they're going to show up, but it's not going to be any sort of massive of conflict. But we'll see. You just never know, particularly if you're talking about somebody, just, real violence or any sort of, explosive device situation. It only takes one or two people in order to carry something like that out. But the average Chicagoans, I haven't heard anything about that. Now, they did do a sweep, and and this is so North Korea again, swept the illegals out of the DNC area, and they shipped them to other locations. That way they didn't have to be seen. Democrats, they love to implement their policies. They just don't like to see the results of their policies. They have that luxury. When Biden went to the border, they cleared it all out, swept everything into areas of the border that Biden wasn't going to be. When Gavin Newsom had the communist leader of China out to California, they swept the streets of the homeless people. Oh, boy, they cleaned it up. They put up those communist Chinese flags that fly over slavery. Couldn't welcome them fast enough. But, here it is. Their policies, they don't like to see the results of their policies. Here at the DNC, their policies on full display, particularly when it comes to illegal immigration. What do? We got to get it away. We don't want to see the results of our policies. Now, some people would see that as a clue, as a hint, as an indicator. When you have a political party, and there are a couple of approaches. One, you're proud of the results of your policies. You want to show them off. You brag about them. Like the actual results. Not the marketing, not the lies, but the actual results. So you want to show them off. Look at what we've done. If you notice with the Democrats, they have to cover up the results of their policies. They have to kick it into high gear. It's that they act as if they are the teenagers of parents who left for the weekend, and they wake up on Sunday morning and everyone's gone out of the house, but it's a complete mess and a disaster. And so they have to scramble as fast as possible before mom and dad get home and see what they did while they were away. That's how Democrats behave anytime there's going to be any attention that is focused on an area in which their policies are on full display. Clean them all out. Listen, it's same as North Korea. Soviet Union's this way. Venezuela. It's always about appearance, not actual results. It's fake. Fake, fake, fake. Any entity, any individual that hides the results of their action, they are then demonstrating that they know that their efforts have failed. They know it. They don't care, but they know it. Traditional press is fuming over the seating at the convention. This is just so perfect. Press arriving at the Democratic National Convention found the number of traditional press workspace seats gutted from previous conventions, and instead a state-of-the-art riser was constructed for TikTokers. This is what the Democrats have reduced their messaging to. The United Center, where Harris will accept the nomination, credentialed 200 social media influencers, and we know that from emails and text messages that some of these influencers have put out there, they're paying these people to be there, offering up to $20,000 for those that are considered to be more influential. They credentialed 200 social media influencers and built a first-ever creator platform on the convention floor to give them a front-row seat and direct access to the action. In turn, traditional print and wire service media were assigned 47 press stand seats equipped with non-stadium chairs, folding chairs, in other words, a desk, internet, and power. The result was too many journalists and not enough seats in the arena. In comparison, at the Republican National Convention last month, daily press and periodical journalists had access to 360 work seats at the smaller forum in Milwaukee. In 2016, the Democratic National Convention, when Hillary Clinton accepted the nomination, press had about 230 workspaces in the arena. Isn't that amazing? As hostile as the mainstream media is to the Republicans, they are far more accommodating to the press than the Democrats are. And this last time around, you look at the side-by-side comparison, the Republican National Convention had set up to accommodate 360 journalists. The Democrats knock it down to 47 so that they can accommodate 200 TikTokers. Now, some people are going to say, well, that's a sign of our times. You've got to go where the voters are. Well, let me tell you what ideally would occur. Ideally, a political party, such as the Democrat Party, would take young people who live on TikTok and elevate them. I don't mean elevate their status, but give them the opportunity to grow a little bit outside of TikTok, to grow up. So that you did not have to communicate with them by, paying other TikTokers to make fun little videos and so forth. You actually elevate them. Instead, what is happening is that the Democrat Party continues to lower itself. I don't know how much lower they can get at this point, other than having, I guess, their own OnlyFans page. Or paying OnlyFans stars in order to promote Kamala and Walz. Lord knows there's a good chance that they already are. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk a text line. The Democrats remind me of the government in the Hunger Games, far away from the population, and there is such a truth to this, particularly when you notice the fundraising that takes place, the big social media push. It's all famous people. Now, the TikTokers, those aren't necessarily wealthy individuals, but I saw yesterday, and it was a lineup of rich celebrities, all of these fundraisers that they've had, even the white dudes for Kamala, it was headlined by the Ben Stillers, these rich Hollywood elites. And it is profoundly in nature, visually, so much like the Hunger Games, where you have the elites, the party elites that are surrounded by the celebrities, the very wealthy, and then, you know, the average citizen is far detached from them, and they try to play to them, you know, like go into one of their local stores and look for Doritos, you know, with the cameras following them. It's all so very Hunger Games in its presentation. I want to reference back to a text that somebody had sent in asking about whether or not any of the protesters, or there was any word about protesters from local folks in Chicago who have been protesting about, among other things, the illegal immigration problem that has been vexing Chicago. And the protests that we saw yesterday were more of the anti-Semitic Democrats that were protesting. I don't know that, I doubt, actually, that you will see any local Chicagoans in any meaningful way protesting the Democratic National Convention because as a continuation of their protest of the Chicago government and illegal immigration and much of what they've been doing in order to accommodate illegal immigrants, because you're going to have, obviously, a lot of those people are Democrats. It's Chicago. They manage to detach in their minds the Democrat component to the illegal immigration problem. They tell themselves it's a local politician problem. So in other words, that they don't translate that to, oh, because they're Democrats, so we need to make sure that on a national level the Democrats hear our voice. And this is the way oftentimes that Democrats rationalize continuing to be Democrats. They tell themselves that the problems in Chicago, the problems in Baltimore, the problems in St. Louis, that's not a Democrat problem. It just happens to be that the local politicians who are causing the problems happen to be Democrats. And this is why they vote for New Democrats every time. Chicago, the perfect example. Mayor Beetlejuice. Complete, utter disaster. And those of us on the outside, we think, when are they going to wake up and stop electing the same people over and over again? Well, in their minds, they aren't electing the same people because they don't see it as a Democrat problem. And some of that is self-preservation because they're Democrats, they're lifelong Democrats, and they don't want to believe that they're wrong. They don't want to believe that, so they'll continue over and over and over again to elect people who have the exact same approach, and the quality of life will not only not improve, but in all likelihood will decline as it has. So to those local folks in Chicago that have been protesting the local government, the Chicago government policies regarding illegal immigration, they don't connect that to the Democrat Party. And for that reason, I think that they won't protest the Democratic National Convention. Now, the anti-Semitics, they recognize they've made ground with this particular administration. I think probably the most campaign, I think probably the single most damaging thing that has been done by Kamala Harris in her entire presidency or vice presidency was making the very blatant decision to not pick Shapiro as her running mate. Everyone knows why that was. Everyone knows. That was a signal, not just to anti-Semitic Democrats here in this country, but to terrorists over in the Middle East. That was a signal to Hamas that when push comes to shove, Kamala Harris will side with the anti-Semitic wing of the party. And not over something just incidental. I mean, that's a very significant decision. You're talking about choosing the vice presidential candidate. And to skip over the individual that was, by all measurements, the best choice politically speaking because he was a Jew and because the anti-Semites in the Democrat Party did not want her to pick, and that she decided to comply with their anti-Semitic wishes, that sent a message to the world. I think that we are underestimating the significance of what that has told Hamas, what that has told the Taliban, what that has told Al-Qaeda, what that has told the Houthis, what that has told every other terrorist organization in this world about where she is and to whom it is that she will side when it comes down to the issue of Israel and the Jewish people. Because she did it. She made that decision. And the world saw it. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Speaking of anti-Semitism within the Democrat Party, John Fetterman noticeably absent from the DNC. And this is one of those situations where everybody knows why, but they have to pretend like it's not the reason why. And he has been he's been the one Democrat in the Senate that is as high profile as he is, that has been very unapologetically anti-Hamas. And he's caught a lot of flack from members of his own party. In fact, his spokesperson recently gave an interview essentially characterizing him as some sort of dope idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a simpleton, which is why he isn't anti-Semitic. It was an unbelievable interview that was done. And it's unbelievable that any any elected official, I don't care what your political party is, that could have a spokesperson come out and do an interview where they rip you on a policy, and that person still has their job? The Free Press on Sunday spoke with Kerry Adams, which is his spokesperson, and told the journalist at the Free Press that she disagreed with Fetterman when it came to the issue of Israel, saying, I don't agree with him. Adams went on to claim that Fetterman at 55 has a less nuanced view on global policy than people her age. Jiminy Christmas. Quote, when he was growing up, it was might makes right, and for my generation and younger, who, of course, are the ones protesting this, they have a much more nuanced view on the region. In other words, he's a simpleton. He doesn't understand. Now, if ever there's a generation that has no concept of nuance, I would say it's probably the younger generation, particularly when their anti-Semitism all boils down to the fact, as James Carville said, the Jews are white. That's not a nuanced view. We've got more coming up. We've got news in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. As I was mentioning the last hour, Fetterman is not attending the DNC. He says, because he was going to spend time with his kids. But everyone knows he's been very unapologetic about not siding with Hamas and terrorism. And this has caused some great frustration within the Democrat Party as they try to balance their approach and not alienate the anti-Semitic wing of their party. And so I'm sure that probably just the fear of not anything bad happening to him, but jeers and boos. And then, of course, if this does occur, if there is, any sort of yelling or obvious disruption as people jeer him, the media would, in all likelihood, be forced to acknowledge what it was about. I mean, if they're showing it and covering it, they would have to explain, well, this is because he's, pretty opposed to killing Jews, and this causes a bit of a problem in the Democrat Party. So I'm sure that it was just agreed by all parties it was best if he not attend. But it's just profound to me that his spokesperson gave an interview in which she claimed that he's a simpleton, that that his generation just believes might is right, and just whoever the biggest bully is wins, and he doesn't understand the nuance that younger people understand. You're not only talking about a spokesperson that is out there arguing that you are wrong when it comes to a policy, but she's arguing that you're wrong because you're an idiot and that you don't have the mental capacity to understand the nuance of such situations, particularly given that he had that stroke situation. I mean, it's just incredible to me. I could see this person, I think it was a girl, a lady, a chick, a self-identified. I was looking for the name here. Carrie, okay, so that would be, I shouldn't assume her gender. Yeah, right. I could genuinely see, and this is how messed up the minds are of the left, her not losing her job because they don't want it to look like she lost her job because she came out and insulted him. Your job is to be the spokesperson for. You are to speak on their behalf. That is the job. I mean, in fairness to Karine Jean-Pierre, although they make her look like an idiot doing it, she does do that job. She doesn't deviate from that. She is the spokesperson for the White House, which means she speaks on their behalf. If you are paid to speak on behalf of someone, you don't give interviews that says, by the way, they don't know what they're talking about. It's craziness. And the nuance component, the biggest battle, public relation-wise, that the Israelis are dealing with is the willful lack of nuance by the protesters against Israel. The lack of nuance in recognizing and understanding that when you are talking about a war, civilians get killed. There's no nuance for these people. None. Kamala Harris runs around saying, well, sure, they have a right to defend themselves, but they have a responsibility to make sure that as few civilians are killed as possible. That lacks all nuance. But that's the position. The ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire that the left is always chanting, that is void of nuance. So to hear someone who's on the side of complete absence of any nuance insulting her boss, in which she is supposed to be the spokesperson, insulting him by claiming that he doesn't understand the nuance the way that younger people do, couldn't be any more perfect. Weather in a moment, now news.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it'll be sunny with a high near 81. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 61. For Wednesday, sunny with a high near 82. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 83.
KSGF.com. Register to win tickets to see Peter Pan at Juanita K. Hall, the beloved family classic performed by Broadway's Best, September 9th through the 11th. And you can register to win your tickets at KSGF.com. And a reminder, 10 a.m. on Friday, local for less, half-price deal, $50 gift certificates for only $25 a piece for Big Whiskey's American Restaurant and Bar, 10 a.m. KSGF.com. A federal judge has struck down Missouri investment regulations that Republican Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft had touted as a way to expose financial institutions that, quote, put woke politics ahead of investment returns. The Missouri regulation issued by Ashcroft's office infringed on the free speech rights of investment professionals and are preempted by federal law, the court ruling said. The state's most prominent business group on Friday praised the ruling as a triumph for free enterprise. The interim president and CEO of Missouri's Chamber of Commerce said the regulation would have placed an unnecessary burden on investment firms, small and large, doing business here in Missouri. Ashcroft, whose office enforces state securities laws, issued rules in 2023 requiring investment professionals to get written consent from customers before incorporating social objective or other non-financial objectives in decisions about buying and selling securities. Ashcroft said he wanted to make people aware of investment firms using environmental, social, and governance principles. When Ashcroft subsequently announced his candidacy for governor in April 2023, he touted the efforts and so forth. The rule was challenged in court by the Securities Industry and Financial Markets Association, a trade group for broker-dealers, investment banks, and asset managers. In a court order Wednesday, U.S. Judge Stephen Bowe said the Missouri rule was preempted by federal law governing investment brokers and was unconstitutionally vague. He also said the rule violated the First Amendment rights of investment advisors to use your dollars for social programs, politics, evidently. If the goal was to prevent fraud and deceit, the rule could have been more narrowly tailored, the judge said. Ashcroft could have engaged in a policy debate about social investing without publishing an official rule. Ashcroft said his office is reviewing options for an appeal. Now, he also said in a statement, the court's decision was not just legally deficient, but also morally wrong and puts Missouri investors at risk. Now, I'm not an attorney, and I don't really know the nuances of the federal aspect of this, and there's just a whole number of components. But let me just tell you overall what is wrong. And that is when people trust other people to invest their monies, their dollars, in a manner that is going to get them the best return possible, if instead of that being the priority is social justice stuff. So in other words, investing in something that is green or investing in something that is about equity, something that won't necessarily bring the best return, but because the people making the decision, that isn't their number one priority. I believe that that is wrong and immoral, unless, of course, the people who turn their money over to those individuals know that that's what it's actually going to be used for. To me, and maybe not in the legal context, it is fraud if you claim, your claim is, give us your money and we will invest it in ways that will give you, best based off our expertise, what we believe is going to get you the best return possible, but instead they use it for political purposes. Now, there may still be a way to get to the point where that is the reality. That doesn't appear to be the reality right now. And this is something, of course, that we've learned over time, that a number of these that oftentimes people find that their dollars are not being invested for the purpose of getting the best return. But you have left-wingers that instead use those dollars in order to propel their political and social purposes. They invest in that stuff. If people want to invest in left-wing efforts, then they, of course, should be able to do that. But they should not have their dollars going to something along those lines if they believe that it is an investment for financial benefit only. Like I said, the nuance of this, I don't know. And so, legally speaking, perhaps this is a legally accurate finding, and that there is another approach, legally speaking, that will get us to that place of transparency and a place in which the left is not able to take people's investment dollars and use them for their own personal political purposes. It doesn't come as a shock to me that the Chamber of Commerce supports this, because this is something that the left abuses and uses. It's something that the left utilizes in order to push their agenda. So the fact that the Chamber of Commerce is fully supportive of this should come as no surprise, given that they are fully aligned with the left. I would also say I don't think that it's a free speech issue to take other people's money. This overall concept of, well, it's free speech. If somebody is taking your money for the purposes of investing, it's their free speech right to use your money instead to invest in, social justice programs. That's not free speech. That's taking someone else's money that is supposed to be used for one purpose and instead being used for another. This is like somebody giving me $1,000, entrusting me to go out and put a down payment on a new apartment for them because for whatever reason they're not able to do it. And I say, oh, I can do it. I can take care of it for you. And instead, I go and I donate that to a political cause. It's not free speech. It's the furthest thing from it. Hopefully, at some point, people who simply trust others to do what is best financially with their dollars will be able to know that that's exactly what they're legally required to do. This ruling does not seem to be a step in that direction. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Yeah, any of those home loan needs, any questions you have refinancing? Is it a good time, a bad time? Should you wait till after the election? You know, when it comes to buying a new home, and is this something that the characters have always said that, you marry the home, you just date the interest rate, I think is how it goes. In other words, you get yourself a home loan, and then 2-3 years down the road, let's say Trump gets reelected, and the economy gets back on track, things get trucking along, people are feeling more confident about things once again, more positive about the future, and things are better in terms of interest rates, they start coming down, you can refinance at that lower rate. So that's always a possibility if you are staying away from a home loan simply because of the current interest rates. I recommend that you talk with someone from the Carricker team about that, about what you're looking to do. They're not there to talk you into anything whatsoever. They're just there to make sure that you have all of the information, fully understand the landscape, and what the possibilities are. That way you can make the most informed decision possible for you and your family. IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com because you do. Now, speaking of finances, Kamala Harris finally answered a question as she was getting off or on a bus regarding her economic policies, and it is a demonstration as to why it is that they do not have her out there talking about these things.
Some economic policies last week, and you can explain how you're going to pay for those, and can you give us a sense of what other policies want to be available?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. When we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools. Again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits and it pays for itself.
All right, so she didn't say anything. She did say return on investment about 82 times. Now, this is clearly something that the Democrats feel resonates with people, that it makes a tax increase sellable. It makes spending sellable. It makes going into further debt sellable, that if you refer to it as an investment, a return on investment. Now, in that word salad, she said that she thought it was a mistake not to really identify what those returns on investments are specifically. Of course, she didn't do any of that, nor has she. All you have to do is just over and over again say, well, it's a return on investment. See, it's a return on investment. And you've got to understand, the more people that are buying houses, it's interesting. Her entire perspective, as she noted in that explanation there, was dependent on you being in a position in which they can take more money from you. Well, the more people we get into more houses, the more that we can get from them, the more we can get in terms of taxes and revenue. Return on investment, see? Return on investment, return on investment. Ask anyone from a country that has the economic policies in place that she's pushing, and you will find out what America will look like under Kamala Harris. By the way, this story has popped up that her running mate he taught over in China for a while. He apparently has this affection for the communist Chinese. That is a country that currently has slavery. I love how the left will refuse to do business with companies because they believe in traditional marriage, but they gush over the Chinese or will trip over themselves to collaborate with a country that throws people into concentration camps, that forces people into slavery. How virtuous of them. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we will have sunny skies with a high near 81. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 61. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 82. And on Thursday, sunny with a high near 83.
I wanted to share with you some information in the Federalist with a watchful eye on Missouri. And as is often the case, anytime that there is a piece, be it the Federalist or National Review or any of the more in-depth pieces that are evaluating through a conservative constitutional lens what's going on in Missouri, it's not good. For a red state, Missouri's results are an embarrassing failure. Between the expansion of government, increased spending, and tax increases that we constantly, year after year, deal with, while all the time, most of the people who help, Kehoe being one of them, who in all likelihood will be the next governor, help push all those tax increases through, run around claiming that they're conservative, we're an embarrassment. Extreme abortion until birth amendments make ballot in Arizona and Missouri. Missouri and Arizona officially joined this week the ranks of 6 states that have fallen prey to extremist-led efforts to enshrine abortion until birth in state constitutions via proposed amendments. A majority of U.S. adults oppose Democrats' plans to legalize abortion through birth. Yet voters in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Nebraska, Nevada, New York, and South Dakota, who have no doubt been duped by euphemistic calls for reproductive rights, are poised to decide this November if they will permanently allow abortion through all 9 months in their state. Missouri Republicans specifically had a chance to foil the Democrats' and abortion activists' deceptive efforts to sneak unlimited abortion into the deep red state by passing legislation that would have fortified the constitutional amendment process. As Federalist staff writer Sean Fleetwood reported in May, GOP senators even possessed the votes they needed to kill Democrats' 50-hour filibuster, but decided to adjourn the upper chamber instead. Thank you, establishment Republican Party of Missouri. The state's GOP deliberate refusal, this is Missouri, to proceed kept them from protecting their state and voters' pro-life principles from extremists who are set on expanding the abortion industry's influence after the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs v. Jackson ruling. Abortion in Missouri is currently banned except in cases of medical emergencies. The proposed amendment, introduced by the ill-named Missourians for Constitutional Freedom and certified by the Missouri Secretary of State's office on Tuesday, however, specifically seeks to permanently permit abortion by adding a, quote, right to reproductive freedom to the state constitution. The deliberately vague wording claims anyone in the state will be allowed to, quote, make and carry out decisions about all matters relating to what it calls reproductive health care. The fair ballot language included on the Missouri Secretary of State's office's website, however, accurately notes that the amendment authorizes abortion at any time of the pregnancy. It also hinders the state from enacting regulations designed to protect women undergoing abortions and prohibit any civil or criminal recourse against anyone who performs an abortion and hurts or kills the pregnant woman. Now, understand that. All in the name of reproductive rights if some hack kills a pregnant woman while performing an abortion. This amendment would prohibit any civil or criminal recourse. So, in other words, it's a free pass to butcher women. This is all we're told in the name of protecting women's rights. Stephanie Bell, spokeswoman with Missouri Stand for Women, told the Missouri Independent the measure takes away the right for every person who loses a child or a loved one because of negligence during pregnancy, labor, or delivery the freedom to sue for malpractice and obtain compensation. Midwest Regional Director for SBA Pro-Life America, Sue Leibel, warned that if the Missouri amendment passes, it would make the state as radical as California in allowing horrific late-term abortions and forcing taxpayers in Missouri to pay for them. She said in a statement, Missouri's all trimester abortion amendment gives the abortion industry a free pass from operating under any health and safety requirement from the state. With Missouri's Planned Parenthood business's record of breaking the law, women and girls will be at risk if the state abortion industry goes unregulated. In just the last few years, she noted, Missouri Planned Parenthood was caught using moldy abortion equipment, ignoring informed consent laws, disregarding the law for 15-year-olds to report when a woman has a complication, and allegedly being willing to traffic a 13-year-old out of state. Now, the Federalist piece goes on to note in just 3 paragraphs, finalizing their piece here, the situation in Arizona, but the vast majority of the focus here is the position that Republican leadership in Missouri has put this state on track to legalizing abortion up until birth. And this goes back to that initiative petition reform, in which we have one of the state of Missouri has one of the lowest bars for adding amendments to the Constitution in the country. It is treated with no sense of weightiness. And so there was an attempt to, at the very least, arguably get it in line with adding amendments to our U.S. Constitution. This was something that many of us recognized. We've been saying for some time the establishment wing of the Republican Party would not let it happen. And as is noted here in the piece in the Federalist, they did not allow it to happen. And so now it will be much easier. And they could very well be successful. Right? I'd say right now it's 50-50. Trump being on the ballot in November, I think, can help potentially prevent this from being part of the Missouri Constitution. But make no mistake about it. If this does pass, it will be because of the refusal of the Republican Party, the establishment wing of the Republican Party, to increase the standard as needed by which we add amendments to our Constitution. And yet again, here Missouri is getting attention, not for being some sort of groundbreaking conservative constitutional state, but offering up itself as a contradiction, as being so-called deep red, while opening itself up to some of the most extreme left-wing policies, in this case, abortion. Now, you look at what Missouri, the expansion of government, tax increase after tax increase after tax increase at the pump 5 years in a row, and now potentially having the darkest, most macabre abortion allowances in our state enshrined in the Constitution, potentially just around the corner. What a fantastic track record the Missouri Republican Party has. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. Let's go to Rufus. Rufus, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I got a beef with a young lady from Porter County, Bishop Governor, and that's all she's got on her plate is murder babies.
All right,
You know, I knew a Democrat president when I was a little kid. But, he'd never went for this stuff. Of course, it never came up back then, but since he was a trying Mason, I just don't believe there's that many of them as for murdering babies. That's Harry Truman,
well,
one of the best presidents we've ever had.
yeah,
He saved the lives of 600 million troops, approximately.
I had meant, Rufus, I had mentioned you talk. I want to expand on your point here. You don't even have to go that far back. During the 90s, the mantra of Democrats regarding abortion was rare and safe. Rare and safe, rare and safe. That's what they said. And their presentation of their position on abortion was that abortion is not a good thing. This is how they presented their belief at the time. And that there are rare circumstances, that was their term, rare circumstances in which it's necessary. And it's not easy. It's not something that should be done flippantly. And at the same time, we need to make sure that it's extremely safe. Now what we see, the latter of those two, is they want to, you want to talk about an industry in which the one industry they're all about deregulating, and that's abortion. But they have gone from portraying themselves as believing that it should be rare to offering them for free outside the Democratic National Convention and then giving them in exchange for having, think about how dark this is. In exchange for killing their own child, they are given a coupon for a free hot dog. That is not a joke. They've partnered up with, I don't know if it's a restaurant or, a meat store, whatever it is, but it's some business in the Chicago area that if you agree to have your child aborted in a trailer outside the Democratic National Convention, they will give you a coupon for a free hot dog. That is the evolution of the Democrat Party over the last several decades on the issue of abortion, where they brag about it. Shout out your abortion. Talk about how much better your life is now that you've killed your child. You look at the two parties and the fundamentals for the most part on a lot of these issues. The Republicans have stayed pretty much the same. Abortion would be one of those. If anything, Republicans have become a little more, let's say, a little less pro-life than they were once upon a time. Democrats have gone from rare to celebrating it, giving coupons for free hot dogs if you will have an abortion, pushing for legislation in which you can, even if the child is born alive, finishing him or her off afterwards. And they claim that Republicans are the extremists. It wasn't just a few decades ago. The Democrats' position on abortion really wasn't that far off from Republicans, at least the way that they presented it. And like most of these issues, when they are the ones who have completely gone off the rails, they claim that it's the Republicans who really, on so many of these issues, haven't changed that much, yet they claim that it's the Republicans who have gone extreme. I mean, what does it say about our culture? I mean, I'm going to just really draw a comparison here that is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable, but I'm just talking in the big scheme of things. We love to feel superior to people in history in the past who have treated other people like trash, or, for example, Hitler with the Holocaust and how awful and evil they are. We live in a culture where people will kill their own babies in exchange for a hot dog coupon. What does that say about us? Are we really that much better? Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Well, your home, it is probably the largest investment that you'll make, so it is important to protect it the best you can. So when storms roll through the area and you're left with damage, it is important to know the best of the best for all of your roofing needs. And that is why I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, I have been working with the Pyramid team for almost 3 years now, and I could not be happier with them. They replaced my roof just several weeks after I moved into the Fixer Upper farmhouse, and I've had them out several different times just to check on things after hail moved through my area. They're always upfront, they're always honest, and they genuinely want to provide you with the best roofing solution for you and your home. And sometimes that doesn't always mean a whole new roof, but maybe a simple roof repair. And if you do need a new roof, the Pyramid team, they offer discounts for our military and our first responders. So if it is time to schedule that free roof inspection, go ahead and give Josh a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I find the increased number of man-on-the-street interviews regarding whom it is that you are going to vote for president to be, I like that this is happening. I just like it, particularly people of color, because you get those that shock oftentimes the host of these networks that are black, and they, not all of them obviously, but a lot of them are saying they're going to vote Trump, and they give reasons why, and a lot of it has to do with the economy. MSNBC's been doing this. Don Lemon, I don't even know I don't know if he was just shooting video for whatever. I don't know that he's with a network. He used to be CNN. And he talked to a variety of people. My favorite exchange is when he asked one guy while he was going to vote for Trump, and he talked about how the economy was better under Trump, and Lemon's telling him, no, it wasn't. I mean, you know what? My response to that is every time these networks tell these people, no, the economy's better, the response is, mine's not. I don't know what economy you're talking about. You can have all your charts and graphs, and you can have all your Nobel Prize winning economists and everything. I'm telling you, my economy is not better. And I'm voting based off my economy, not the economy of a bunch of elite people. There was a journalist from Sky News and I love this setting because these weren't hand-picked people, MSNBC. They get these chairs and they're sitting there all talking to them. This guy from Sky News just goes out to a basket. This is in Georgia. I think it's Atlanta, somewhere in Georgia. And there are a bunch of black men. I'd say they look like they were around their 30s, somewhere around there. Maybe a little older, maybe some a little younger, and just they asking, what are your thoughts on the presidential election? Now, this isn't all, handpicked. Oh, Trump. This is just a guy. Sky News approaches these black guys that are all playing basketball out there in the middle of the day on the court. Their thoughts on the upcoming election.
Who wants to talk about politics? Do you know who you're going to vote for in November?
Donald Trump.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because he's our best choice. Some people don't like it, but I think he's a smart businessman. Someone call him an a-hole, but I think he's an excellent a-hole.
Trump real, bro. He don't care what you think about it. He gonna speak his opinion. He gonna tell you what it is.
Going to vote for?
I ain't voting for nobody.
Yeah, I ain't voting for nobody.
No, I ain't voting.
You're not going to vote at all?
No, I ain't voting.
What do you think about these guys saying they're not going to vote?
They got to know their vote count.
It do matter though.
I just don't believe in both candidates. I don't believe in.
I really don't believe in them strong enough to vote. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Do you agree? Trump again?
With Trump and who running?
Huh?
Who's running?
Trump.
And who?
And Kamala Harris, because Biden stepped aside.
Oh, Biden stepped out?
Yeah, he stepped out.
Probably Trump. Yeah, I'll probably go with Trump. I seen a lot of tax breaks, and just ultimately, my company was running better when he was in office.
Definitely not Trump. No offense.
Not Trump.
Not Trump. So, I'm gonna go. Who's running?
Well, Biden stepped aside. Kamala Harris, the vice president.
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
Now, there were two there that didn't really have an answer, and in their own acknowledgement, didn't even know who was running against Trump. One said he wasn't voting for Trump, but he didn't know who the other candidate was. The other guy who didn't know or said he wasn't going to vote, he didn't even know that Biden had dropped out. But everyone that was somewhat in tune, and they all gave different reasons. They said they're going to vote Trump. Now, this, of course, doesn't mean that Trump is going to take the black vote, obviously, but I just think these are interesting and instructive, though. My very favorite quote and reason was the one guy who said that a lot of people think that Trump is an a-hole, but he said he's a really good a-hole or something.
Some people call him an a-hole, but I think he's an excellent
a-hole.
Yeah,
he's an excellent a-hole.
He should get that made on shirts, Trump.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Okay, I thought I was timing this out poorly, but actually I have another minute here. There is an article, news leader, MSU alum, award-winning actor John Goodman voices campaign ad for Lucas Kunce. This is the Democrat who's running against Josh Hawley. And I know for a lot of people in the area, you don't like this. You're like, why? No, because John Goodman, even he's not like here. He went to college here, and he's not a Springfield guy. But I think there's an affection for him, and this pains a lot of people. But listen. This is, once again, the difference between the two parties and the left, the rich celebrity elites. I mean, somebody referenced the Hunger Games earlier and how the Democrat Party just visually almost, you get this Hunger Games feeling and this insistency on going to rich celebrities in order to spread your message, I think demonstrates where the party is today.